This is the June 3rd, 2026 library instruction session. I am Elizabeth Holt. I'm presenting on accessibility in Adobe Acrobat today, and this session is being recorded and will be available for viewing later. So on the agenda today, I'll go over some basic terms and then some accessibility basics. We'll look at source documents, mitigation versus remediation. I'll go over the tools in Acrobat Pro plus a little demo. Then I'll have a slide of recommendations and then resources. So some terms I'll be using, OCR, which is optical character recognition. So that is the electronic conversion of printed text to machine readable text. So when you first scan a paper document, the electronic document will just be an image, and this is kind of required to make those words be readable by the machine. So a machine reader is any technology that relays the information or text in an electronic document to an assistive device. We're looking at like a Braille keyboard or a PDF narrator. Accessibility formatting basically improves machine readability. Tags instruct a machine reader on how to navigate and present the contents of a PDF. And then alt text describes visual components in your PDF. And this is only viewable, the alt text is only viewable by the machine reader. Accessibility basics. I'm going to read this first one. So it's equitable access to electronic content is possible when assistive devices, aka machine readers, can successfully analyze, organize, and present information as the document creator intends. So the main factors affecting machine readability are document metadata, OCR, tags, reading order, and alt text. So not all accessibility tools are found in the browser version of Adobe, so it's best to use the installed version if you're able to. Not all formatting successfully transfers from an electronic source document, like your Word doc, to a PDF. So PDFs must always be checked. Now looking at the source documents, there are two types of source documents for PDFs. One would be an electronic document, like a Word doc that you created or was given to you to disseminate as a PDF. The other would be a paper document that was scanned and saved in the PDF format. With the electronic source document, a born digital source document, it may or may not have been formatted for accessibility. So your resulting PDF may not be. So it may not be OCR'd, it may not have tags, it may not have alt text. All of these things would need to be checked, even if you did create the PDF from a born digital source. Now, digitized, when you take a paper for a PDF from a scanned document, from a scanned paper document. So again, that PDF file may or may not have been OCR'd. It's very unlikely to have tags or alt text. Obviously, your paper document won't have any of this to, transfer over when it's saved to PDF. So just assume that it's going to require remediation, and it might just be easiest to start over to replace it. And I'll go over those steps. Looking at mitigation versus remediation, mitigation is kind of putting the formatting in place. Remediation is, creation. And then remediating is coming back and having to assign all of these accessibility formatting to the PDF. So looking at some ways to deal with PDFs, if your source doc is electronic and it's accessible, maybe just share that instead of a PDF. Just keep it as a Word doc. There are ways to secure it from being edited. So that would be your number one choice. If your source document is electronic and accessible, maybe resave it as a PDF in the way that I'm going to show you in this presentation, and then work with that new PDF. If you are an accessibility expert and you don't have the source document, you only have the PDF, so you can open it as a Word doc and adjust it there for accessibility, put in all the formatting, and then save again in PDF format. I don't recommend this if there are graphs that are included, because Word doesn't do the best job of recreating graphs from a PDF. So that's kind of a last case kind of option. All right, if you only have the PDF, if you've only got the file, try opening it in a newer version of Pro and do the OCR and the auto tagging. If you do have the paper document, maybe rescan it on newer technology, a more modern scanner, then run it through a modern version of Adobe again. And if necessary, like my example on the right there, maybe you need to find or create a newer or simpler version of it. So this example here is a 1933 page from the LSU Medical Center student newspaper, The Tiger. And as you can see, Adobe is a little bit overwhelmed with trying to figure out what's going on this page. Visually, we could pick out the different blocks of text, no problem. Adobe is not capable of doing that. So if a researcher wanted an accessible version of a document like this, I would probably, I don't think the OCR worked very well on this either, because the font is just so old-fashioned. So I'd probably screen grab the different blocks of text, upload it to Copilot and see if it could transcribe it for me, grab that transcription and put it into a new document in the order, kind of recreating the visual order of that newspaper, and then present that as sort of a supplemental file that would be accessible. So let's go on. So step one, make sure your PDF has the correct metadata. To do that, you navigate from the main menu to Document Properties and assign title and author. That's found under the Description tab in that dialog box. And then make sure that English is the assigned language, and that's found under the Advanced tab. There is also an Accessibility Compliance metadata field. Unless you are checking and correcting every tag, just leave it as none, that it is not compliant. So it's better to err on a bit of caution there. And I'll note that a document title is different from a file name, right? So they can be the same, but when you change one, it's not going to change the other. Next, you'll run the scan OCR tool. So this tells the machine reader the characters aren't just images, that they are letters and words, and it's essential, especially if you're taking a paper document and scanning. If you're working from an electronic source document, I still recommend it. So to do that, right, open the Scan OCR tool and then select Recognize Text, select in this file, and I do recommend saving after this step. Now prepare for accessibility. There are 4 main actions in the Adobe Accessibility tool. That is automatically tag PDF, check for accessibility, add alternate text if needed, if you have images in your document, and then fix reading order. Also, that might be more necessary if you have images in your document, or if you're working with, say, a research poster, then you would want to make sure that the machine is reading the content in the order that you want it to be read. And again, I recommend just saving between each step. Next, you'll automatically tag the document. You can do this from the steps as I describe on this slide, or from the Accessibility Checker tool, which I'll show you later during the demo. But the main thing is to make sure cloud-based tagging is enabled. So to do that, you're going to go into the main menu on Adobe, scroll down to Preferences. The dialog box will open. You'll choose the Accessibility page. And there at the very bottom, I've kind of highlighted it. It says Enable Cloud-Based Auto Tagging for Accessibility. I really recommend this. Adobe is getting much better with accurately tagging a document. And like I said, if you forget this step and go straight to the check for accessibility step, it's fine. You can still run the auto tag tool from that dialog box. Now in check for accessibility, let's see. You're going to open up the check for accessibility tool. Just go ahead and unclick or make sure the create accessibility report is disabled. It's not necessary. And then click start checking. And at this point, another box will open up with your issues. Each document will present a different array of issues. And the goal is to have none, but this almost never happens the first time. And I'll go over the rest of these points in my demo about the what you can ignore and what you can focus on. Adding alternate text or alt text. So again, you'll go from the check for accessibility tool and click on the add alternate text. And then another dialog box will pop open and the related image will be highlighted in blue. It may take some time finding it because sometimes Adobe will select just something that's a little bit decorative, a little line that separates text blocks, and consider it to be an image. So sometimes it's hard to find what is actually being highlighted. So you're going to use clear, concise, descriptive language. You don't need to say an image of, unless maybe if it's a photograph and it's important that the researcher knows that it's a photograph, then you can say it's a photograph of or X-ray of. All of your graphs, charts, and tables should have alt text. The wording is pretty simple and it's a great little pattern to follow. You would say A and then the type of graph, titled, just go ahead and put in your graph title, and then where, and then just add in the meaningful data points that you think the researcher needs to know that gives context to the other information that you're providing. So you would say like a pie chart titled Best King Cake Flavors 2026, where classic remains the top choice, or something like that. All right, so Acrobat may provide cloud-based alt text. You'll always want to verify it and it'll show up. It's actually an option sometimes that you can turn on or turn off. It may depend on the version that you're using. Just as with all things AI, just verify. And then you select decorative figure for anything that's not providing information or context, like that little bar that would separate the text. You would select it as decorative. Some common issues that will show up in my demo probably is tagged PDF fails. You can fix that right there in that dialog box. So if absolutely nothing is working on you, nothing is transferring over, the formatting is looking that good, maybe just go back to your source doc, save it as again, save as a copy, choose PDF as the format. Ignore that save as PDF option, just don't ever touch it. And then sometimes images may not show up in the correct order. So when the machine is reading it, it'll go through all the text and then it'll come back to the images. If it's important for you or for your document that those images remain within the context of the surrounding words, then I'm going to show you how to drag and drop them so that they're in the right place. All right, I'm going to exit out of this and go into my Adobe. So here I am in the app version. I have 3 documents that I'm going to walk through, just a couple of steps in each one. This first one is one that I created with Microsoft Word. I'm pretty sure I made sure that all of my accessibility formatting and alt text and everything was in place. And then I did the save a copy, chose PDF. Let's go ahead and, first I will show you real quick how to get to the cloud-based auto tagging, because it is kind of the most important thing here. So I went into main menu to preferences, accessibility, enable assistive technology support. It looks like that's what the version is for that wording on this one. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open up, check for accessibility. This dialog box always pops open. I'm going to turn off, create the report. I'm selecting all of the options there that it's going to check and start checking. So this is great. I've got 2 issues: logical reading order, color contrast. And as I said in that slide, these you can ignore. I can select pass, so it's now passed. Next time I open this document and check for accessibility, it's going to come up again. So don't worry about that. Same with the color contrast. All right, now I'm going to go into the add alternate text. I know in this document I have some images, I have some tables and graphs. So let's just see if my alt text transferred over from my Word doc. I'm going to move this box over out of the way. So yep. Okay, so there, as you can see, it jumped to this one, which is the second of my charts, rather than the first one. So I want to correct that. I'm going to close this dialog box, go to fix reading order. So remember, OCR, metadata, alt text, reading order, these are important things. This box is opened up. It's automatically under page content order. That's what I want. I can see the numbers that are assigned to each block. And it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me close this a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need to drag those images back up where they should be. I'm clicking on Show Order Panel. It's automatically opened up the page that I'm on. So I can just drag it and drop it. So now Adobe knows to go in this order. My machine reader, rather, will know to read the document in this order. This first, this, and then continue down the page. All right. Now opening up, let me close this. Opening up this article, this goes back to 2010, I believe. I know that it has been OCR'd because my cursor is this vertical line and I can grab text like that. Wouldn't hurt to run the OCR again. Let's go ahead and check the accessibility on it. Just kind of curious. All right. So now we've got a few more issues than just those 2, right? Let's open up the document issues. We know to ignore the color contrast and the reading order. Primary language and title failed. So the metadata on this PDF isn't there. I can change that from here, or I can change that just by right-clicking on the document and going to Document Properties. I'm going to show you how to change it from here in the accessibility checker box. So I'll hit Fix. English is the default. I'll hit OK. So now it's passed. Title, I want to fix that. You have these fields that are automatically checked as Leave As Is. You have to uncheck that and then type in your title. You have to uncheck that. And again. So that's okay. Let's look at alternate text. It says I have 3 figures. I only have 1. So I'm going to figure out these first 2 are probably what Adobe thinks is a figure, but actually isn't. So let me go to add alternate text. It's going to ask me, you can turn off this message if you want. All right. So remember, I'm looking for what's highlighted in blue. I don't see that here. I suddenly see this bar highlights in blue. What's my third? It's there. And that's what I expect to see. So this first one I'll mark as decorative. It's probably grabbing this first line. Go to the next, mark that as decorative. And then here, I'm just going to say X-ray. Right. Obviously, I'd put in figure 1 MR images comparing, so, but for the sake of time, I'm writing that. All right, let's do our check again. That should be cleared up. So yeah, so now I just have the 2 issues. There's no alternate text. It says there's a heading issue. Don't worry about that. That's something that would just take a lot, and it's not necessary for machine readability. So if it's a headings issue, just ignore that as well. Okay, going into my third. So here we are. This is obviously a paper document put on a scanner. You can see where the page edges are. You can see that my cursor stays as the crosshairs. It's not that vertical line. So that tells me this has not been OCR'd. Adobe just thinks this is an image. It's not going to grab words or anything like that. So, and I'm going to guess when I go into document properties, yep, there's nothing there. I have a file name, but no title, no author, no language. So let me go ahead and correct this here. We know we can correct it in the accessibility checker, but I'm just going to do shoot. Okay. I can do the automatically tag PDF from here, but again, I'm curious what's going on since this one is just starting from scratch. And there we see it's not tagged, it's an image only. Everything is failing. So let's get started on correcting all that. So image only PDF, let's fix that. It doesn't need to be 600 DPI, it can be 300 DPI. A searchable image. I don't want it to be editable, I just want it to be searchable. So this should be running the OCR. And it's taking a while. Okay, now I've got my vertical cursor, I'm doing it there. The other way you would do that is to come back out of here at Scan OCR, recognize text. Hopefully there aren't too many, oh, there's 10 pages. So just be a little patient. Where are we at? Page 8. All right, Adobe, you can do it. Good job. Okay, going back down to prepare for accessibility. Now let's see. Wait, I forgot to save. Okay, now let's see what that changes. All right. So now we can tag it. Very good, that was quick. And again, with the alternate text. All right, so this is a case where it's grabbing just the page edges, right? And it thinks that maybe those are images. They're not. This can be cumbersome, I admit, if you've got a really long article. All right. I'll mark them all as decorative. Save and close. Let's do our check. Again, with the headings, I don't even want to open that because it's just, all right. It maybe thinks that that's a heading 3 and it's been labeled a heading 6, something like that. Again, it's not going to affect your basic accessibility passes. All right, so that is that. I'll go back into my slide. So I showed you how to correct the image order, how to fix the auto tagging if you forget to do that in the first step, or if you just prefer to do it from the accessibility checker box, that's fine too. And again, saving to the PDF format versus save as Adobe PDF is just what I recommend. And if you're having a issue with your PDF, maybe that would be your first step to go and see. All right, so if a PDF is old, and I'm going to say about 15 plus years, consider replacing it. Maybe if you have the source paper document, just rescan it. If you have the electronic document, go in and apply the accessibility tools there and then resave it. All of these steps are just easier than fully remediating a PDF. All right, so the document metadata, the OCR, the auto tagging, and alt text are the minimum steps to achieve a level of accessibility for machine readability. Always use the desktop or the app version of Pro. The browser version just won't have the same checking options. It definitely does not have the same metadata options. Run your OCR before checking for accessibility. Make sure that cloud-based tagging is enabled in your version of Acrobat. And then just know that PDFs of old PowerPoint slides or posters will most definitely need the reading order fixed. But you saw how simple that was. It's just a drag and drop. Here are some resources that'll be available on the slide deck. So of course, Acrobat has their own sort of tutorials and guides. Media Space Illinois, I really like. They're about an hour-long workshop series. The accessibility guy is a YouTuber, but he's very engaging. He's a lot of fun. He also has a blog. So that links to the website blog, not to the YouTube page. And then LSU Health New Orleans has its own digital accessibility hub where you can find many resources. And then I presented for IT office hours back in April on creating accessible documents. So if you can create the accessible document before you even look at a PDF, that's best, right? Well, thank you so much. I'll ask if there are any questions in the room or in the chat. Okay, if you only have the PDF doc, you can open as Word and just sit there for accessibility. Do you export it as Word? So yes, if you have a text PDF, PDF that's mostly just text, and you will have the option of opening it in Word. And then if you, at that point, you can assign the headings, you can assign the alt text if needed. Although I did say if it has images, don't, this can be really tricky. But assign the metadata, the tags, or rather the headings and such. Then you can share that word, right? Yes, the tables. So the issue is the table header. As many times as you correct the tag in Adobe, it's just not taking, I think is what you mean by that. And the document keeps getting flagged. That's something I personally have been trying to figure out as well, Brooke. So if you want to email me, I will put it in here if anyone wants to email me. And as I learn things, I will share the tricks that I learn. So I do apologize that I don't have a good answer for you. I know okay. All right. Well, I do know that PDFs are frustrating in terms of accessibility. So like I said, please do reach out to me and I'll see if I can help you. All right. Thank you very much.